Okay, go in the extra. I was gonna try and do the conversation on the exercise machine, and that's a little bit too difficult. Okay, so I think the topic should be called child labor. Now, I thought of several things when I was on my walk, so I'm gonna try and address all of those. But if people are going out of their way to get me to talk about something, then I'll talk about it because I think that it should be brought up, but it's going to be talked about in a way which resonate a good word that's coming through myself as to what I think about the situation. So, on my walk at the end of the road, the city of Abilene garbage truck was sitting in front of the airport gate. Okay, so I've never seen them do that since my whole history of walking on that road. And I looked at the back of the garbage truck and I saw the word HEIL, which I don't know what that means. But before I started walking, I saw a picture of Hellman's mayonnaise, which I was thinking about the other day when I came across a recipe for mayonnaise. Okay, so the thing about that is the guilt of trash, okay? And that you're busy with other things, right? So yes, you like okay, so just considering the issue of plastics. Okay, so you're told that plastics they're not biodegradable, right? And so there are so many food products that come in plastic packaging, okay? And to save the world, to be an environment type of person, you could um, start getting into making your own mayonnaise, making your own mustard, and growing spices or whatever it is in your garden, and then there's not that packaging having to go through transportation. Okay, yes, you could do that. And that would be like, okay, I'm doing a service by not requiring that packaging because I'm making my own. But if you start divvying that out and thinking about the styrofoam of an egg carton and and getting really specific with that, all of the things that you're buying that has packaging, that can be a little bit overwhelming. Um, and so you have to be feasible about that. And if your like bank account can't afford to buy everything that's organic or in biodegradable packaging because it's more expensive for you to do that, and you'd rather put the money into other areas, then I don't know. Like I kind of feel like that about milk cartons and things like that, that it's probably better to get the cardboard milk cartons even though it's a smaller amount of milk. And there's so many different like little choices that you could make, but also you the homemade type of things also decrease packaging. But the fact of the matter is, I am doing a lot of other work that I have to finish up also, which I think is important to learn about. And that's the issue of it. What is important to learn about? There's always going to be something that's important to learn about, and that's why I think um, the idea of prepping and having things um, thought of and planned ahead of time is always a good idea, such as me figuring out how to do this book idea and putting this um, home idea of how I'm gonna figure out the wiring and the plumbing and all of that stuff, and then having that in a book so that it's organized is like that's important to me because I can use all of that knowledge going forward wherever I end up. It's transferable skills. And it was one part of my house was about using it for rehabilitation, another part was about family building, and another part was being able to figure out how the matter of the things that you do with the physical world connect with you on a soul level and sort of a symbolic way. Those were all things that I wanted to figure out how to do. But so as far as that goes, I can put it on my agenda to be like, yes, I can do that for environmentally good practices to um, know that the more that I do homemade food or food from my garden, the less packaging will go into the garbage, um, my own personal garbage. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was uh, that at one point I said that it would be helpful for the city to do um, tours for, the Abilene ISD or Wiley ISD or whatever schools district to help people have awareness about their impact on the garbage system. Now, I don't know how that would go into like a spiritual component as well, as far as like what you're talking about, what you're paying attention to is sort of what you're digesting, and what is coming out of you is what like, a reader's digest or a listening digest would be. So I guess that sort of connects in a spiritual way. But what I thought, like, so whenever I said that, I had some larger things that I took out to the city dump because I wanted to see what it looked like out there. And it was just like a big mountain of trash, but everything was buried because when it gets there, they put dirt over it. So there is absolutely no smell at all. But as far as like plastics and things like that being buried in the earth, I have no idea about the long term effects of things like that. There is another um, thing that I had read about on the internet, that there has been a type of worm that has been created that eats plastic, and I don't know about anything like that or how dangerous that could become, but like, I just don't know. I don't know. Like, why is the brain called plastic? It's like that's another thing that doesn't make sense, because plastic, we don't have plastic in our bodies, like the kind of plastic that is a material. But so there's my thoughts on garbage. Now, you just like don't put stuff out into the universe that you think is wasteful, or don't do things that are wasteful if you're trying to think of it in that way. Um, so the other thing that I thought of was about the musical chairs game. I had never thought about this before, but where somebody plays music and then everybody is trying to hurry up and get to a seat when the music turns off? And then there's always, they keep taking away a chair each time. And then facing the music means taking responsibility for what you're doing. So, what does that game actually about is what I was thinking about. Where they're taking away a chair from where one person is left out standing after each round of the game. What is the deeper message of that? And it could be that the person that loses their chair maybe has decided to be responsible for whatever area in the group, maybe not even a group situation, but in whatever area of knowledge or labor which they were a recipient of, they decided to be um, a, a worker of. I don't know exactly what that game is about. But I was like, I wonder if that has something to do with it, because How did people end up in the labor for I don't want to say force again, in a labor place, but it's based on what they've chosen to learn about, because there's so many areas that you can go past, that you can go down. You can't do it all, but you can try to do as much as possible, and then I guess that will equate to what kind of place you get for whatever it is you're doing. Even if what you're doing seems like you don't know if it's good for the world or not. If you're being encouraged to do it, such as me going on these walks and things and wondering about it, I think that insinuates that it is the communication is wanted, because when I see like there's something going into the airport, I'm connecting that with the air and the intellect. Like, think about that, talk about that, and let it go into the gate, and so it like added a little extra to what I'm doing, and who knows, maybe it's adding a little extra to the people who are doing things like that. Um, so the other thing that I was thinking about was after Ren put up the number um 206, it came up with a biblical symbolism about the name Akron being about wickedness. And that was another question I had about children. And the difference between wickedness and evil and naivety, because if they're born into a family that's doing things that they don't understand is right or wrong, because that's how their family is doing things, that is a that is like a big question of mine. So when I was thinking about this idea, I remembered that I had the reason why I got out that jigsaw earlier is for this. I had been given this wicker bench from my mom that was given to her by Cindy, and so one of the things I decided to do was strip the wicker off of it, and then I had this plywood that I got, and I cut that into an egg shape for the backing. It was like a huge egg for the seat of the back, and then I put another piece of plywood on the bottom of it, and then I wish I still had the picture. I had all the dogs jump up there and take a picture, and I think there was I put like a yellow cloth over part of it so it would look like a yoke. But that's significant to me right now, because I was thinking about how I thought it was important to get that wicker off of there, and thinking about that idea of wickedness. And that was what that bench I made in my mind when I made that, was that I was going to sit on that bench when I started announcing the gender of my children, which, like, it was just a future oriented thought. You probably actually have to be sexually with somebody to have children, but that's what I did. And then I'm not sure, because like time gets away from me sometimes about, did I do this before or did I do this after? Why did I get rid of the egg bench? And I can't remember why. Like, was I upset about something about the egg bench? Or was it because something I did after Oxley was taken? That part of it, I do not remember what it was that like felt like I had to get rid of it, because I loved that bench. It was like the first thing that I made. Oh, maybe my garage became too crowded, and then I put it outside, and it started turning. Might have started having like little black spots on it, because that wood wasn't supposed to get wet. I can't remember what it was. I cannot remember what it was. But I know that I did get rid of it, and then a neighbor came over to my house and wanted it. So I don't. That goes along with putting something out on the curb to see if anybody would want it. Like, I did that several times with things because you're like, well, like some of the things, like you just kind of feel like, should I like see if anybody wants what I've got before I decide to dispose of it? It's like I don't want anybody to take something just to get rid of my trash. It's like don't take anything if you don't want it. Like I so I like it's hard for me to remember if that was the reason for it or not. I don't know. But um like I have a chair that my dad gave me as furniture when I first got my house cuz he used to have an apartment that he'd stay in for his job and he didn't have it anymore, so he gave it to me. And the dogs have torn that chair up. Um and so I was thinking about getting my saw out and chopping it down and throwing it in the dumpster. And I could try and refurbish it if I wanted to learn about how to build my own furniture, but that's not the kind of furniture that I want to do. I want to do things that are waterproofed and that fold up into my walls. So, I rarely sit down. Um, it's like probably going to be furniture made of PVC pipes that fold up into the walls. Just for space saving reasons and the fact that like I want to be able to keep things that don't get ruined by animals. And there's like that's what I've been considering when I'm thinking about building my kitchen cabinets. If I want to build them more with like maybe concrete all around them or cinder blocks or something, and then maybe put tile over that so that way that they're protected and they don't get like, it's very difficult to try and keep yourself in construction when you have animals and you want things to stay in good condition. But also, on the other fact of that is that the animals have taught me so much about love and care, and and being gentle with them, because they are animals that like it's a skill that I wouldn't have without them. So I can stay in that place of gratitude. But you know what? I would never do it again. I can tell you that much. I can tell you that much. But it's my commitment to them that it's like, just because like things become like not so like you didn't really know how that was going to turn out because you made you weren't thinking about how things might be future oriented. You're just thinking about whatever it was that you're thinking about, and then you're in a lifelong commitment, and then you know that bad consequences might happen if you break your commitments. That's what having to keep a bunch of dogs will teach you. There's no escaping what you've decided to do. And I also figured that out whenever I got this dog, that Chico, that I didn't really like, because the lady said to me, when I had said that I didn't really want him, at first she said she would come get him, and then the next day she said that she would not be coming to get it, and that she was disabled and her husband was never home. And so I just like, I did not like the way that went. So I said, forget about it. I will deal with it myself. And so for me to think about trying to do that to somebody else after the way that made me feel, like she didn't really care if I wanted the dog or not, or if I cared if I liked the dog or not. She just didn't want the dog in her house. And so that's like, I don't want to treat anybody else like that. If you don't like the way that you were treated, it's very difficult to be like trying to dump animals and things like that on other people. And the same would go with thinking about your children or anything else. You better be able to commit to it if that's what you decide to do. Same as with a relationship partner, any of those things. That is a major commitment. And like, it's like, as far as I am concerned, all of these things that I do, which is not like, it's not luxurious, it's not always pleasant, but that's the part where I would say Those are things that give me the stoic mentality where I have to, no other choice, but to look for what kinds of skills I am building that are strengthening me from the inside out. Because you know what? You can also go like from thinking about trying to make everything cush cush for yourself, which is like being overly catered to and not learning what you need to learn or developing what the moral fiber, the characteristics of having a strong um ability to keep going. Those things do not develop if you have a cush cush circumstance where you're being overly pampered or catered to. Those come from putting yourself in situations where you have to appreciate them for what they are instead of wishing that you didn't have circumstances that you had to learn from. So, no, it's like somebody posted that there was such a thing as an animal hoarder, and it was like trying to describe all these types of hoarding. And I'm like, you know what? I'm trying to learn from the internet, but not be criticized by things. It's like it's the only reason that there are several dogs is because it was one litter. I wouldn't even have Chico if I wasn't trying to figure out uh, some way to make that pain of having someone steal my dog stop. I just didn't know what to do. It's like it was like I couldn't get over it. It just felt so terrible after even 3 months. I think I felt terrible about that for more than a year because somebody would do that to me. So it's like that just wasn't a good. I mean, I learned from it. I learned from it that don't like even though that some experience like feels extremely devastating to you, that sometimes that going out and getting um trying to soothe it by getting uh another animal is not the way to go. But you know, I don't know. There's always things you can learn from everything. Now, so in as far as like I keep seeing this name Leah, okay? And I know the story has been told like a million times about Jacob's, Leah, and Rachel, who were sisters, okay? Though when you're my age, which I do not need to tell my age, but I will again, when you're my age at 45 years old, why do you need to keep thinking about this story that is not your story? Okay? Like, I know that Rengil's sister is named Leah. And I know that the word Rachel has the letters of my name in it. And I know that whenever I was at doing volunteer work for the kindergarten class, the teacher's name was Rachel, who introduced me to Jonathan. But what does that have to do with anything today? I have had so much of my own experiences that I don't need that story. It's like that it's one thing when you're a child and you have no experiences and you're trying to learn from the world and you're taking in stories because you don't have anything. It's quite another when you've lived a long time and you have plenty of memories in your own mind. And why would you like use a okay, I can compare it to this. I've seen a blueprint for a house drawing which just looks like squares of bedrooms and hallways and bathrooms which anybody could draw. And then there'd be like it's like $1,000 or $2,000 to buy that picture. Okay? And then it's not going to be the layout that you want because somebody else drew it. and you could not pay the money and draw it yourself if you haven't developed enough skills and things like that within yourself to know these kinds of things. So that's what kind of it is, I think, of when you're being told to remind yourself about these stories all the time. Like, it was also the same circumstance when I was told that um, that my grandmother's sister's husband died, whose name was Connie, and they buried him next to his first wife. Okay, well, I'm like, why would they do that if he loved his new wife? Like, I guess it was because I don't know why. Like, I don't have enough information. I'd be making it up if I thought I knew why, but I would say, like, that would be upsetting to me if that's what my husband decided to do. And to make that a situation about myself and what's going to happen in my future is reasons why I don't like to do that. I don't want to think of some past boyfriend and me getting back together because I'm trying to connect some stories together. It's like your future is whatever you make it. It doesn't matter about what your ancestors did or what story biblical stories that you've heard as far as what the end of the story was for these Bible characters. It's what you do with yourself that is creating your pathway forward. Okay? That is what it is. So it could work out with Ren and I if we're both willing to change whatever it is that we notice we should change for a relationship to work. And then it could maybe not work. But to try and pin this hope on, like, thinking of a person that I don't know anything about really, like, that was a very brief experience, and to try and to take these stories and try and look for some kind of future pathway is not what I want to do, because I think that's like the same thing as saying do not go see to a fortune teller and ask them what it is that they think is going to happen in your life, because they don't actually know. You're the one who is creating that. You're creating that every day based on what you decide to do. If I hadn't done a lot of the ideas that I've come up with, I would not be where I am today. Sometimes it really surprises me how much of the I have learned from when I first started. And all kinds of things. So that's why I brought up Jonathan again, was because of that John Wick idea. And then Ren had brought up Legend, which I thought of John Legend, and I had mentioned before that when I saw that on TV a long time ago with him jumping around on stage with a onesie on, I thought he was making fun of me because I had that what would you say? That I kept that desire that could happen alive for so long that I thought he was making fun of me the same way I thought that the other John Cena was making fun of me about it. Like, I understand those connections because of how it made me feel, and that was another reason why I just didn't really want to watch television anymore. I don't want to watch television if they're just going to make fun of me. It's like, I don't, like, other people have relationships, so I don't see how it's anything comical that I would want one. Or other people have families, so how is it anything comical that I would want a family? It's not. It's just that, like, I don't easily let go of things that I want for my life. I just come up with new ways of imagining my future about what I can do to contribute to that. I guess that's an example of tailoring my seams, but did I already mention the number 206? Yeah, he says yes, baby. And so, you see, like, there's like, if you know that you've changed so much, you know somebody wanted to stick it out with you even though that was before you had changed. You know that there is a possibility of the other person changing. Why would you give up? You wouldn't. You wouldn't. These are things that have to be recognized. And I don't want to make something that is going on about myself about anybody else, and I don't want anybody else to make what is going on with themselves about me, because when you get to a certain age, that cannot be the truth. Stories that are not yours are not about you. You can learn from people to sculpt yourself. Maybe relationships are possible, but there's never going to be a circumstance where what somebody else is doing is about yourself. It just can't be that way. You're doing whatever you're doing. And that's where you're headed. And those are the skills and mentalities that you're carrying with you, which you will build off of. That's what's happening. So, and if everybody had the same skills and abilities, the world would not be where it is, because you can't like be a brand new to learning about carpentry and then also be a lumberjack and also be a builder of saws. Okay, I'm just looking at the wood back there for an example. There are limits to how much that you can do. And this is the point that I wanted to end on. And that's why the importance of a head start for children is so important. Because if every family is not the same and you end up in a position where you can teach your children a lot more because of how much knowledge and wisdom and skills and abilities that you have learned, they're going to even excel to higher places than you were able to. And that'll put them in a position of being able to contribute more to the world. And it is actually a good thing to be in that position. That's why it would be a good thing for me to have been having all the experience that I have and getting a later start, because I would not be able to give of myself like I would have back then. And that's how the story connects to Hansel and Gretel, because the stepmom didn't want the children at her house because she didn't want to have to feed them, I guess is the story. And she was not thinking like in the right frame of mind, is what I was thinking, to scatter out breadcrumbs and try and get rid of them. And the witch almost eating them. So what I thought about with that story is, like, if you're a child and you want your mother to nurture you and all these things, there are limits to that, because she can't do that without creating some sort of handicap in you if she's doing work for you that you should be doing yourself. And so that's what you have to think of when it comes to children. You have to put them in positions which they are able to learn for themselves, instead of you taking the position of taking care of them, because you will die first. You have to put yourself in a position so that they obtain the skills and knowledge sets that they need, and they can't get that from you if you haven't taught those things to yourself. And that is why I'm a proponent of child labor, and why I always keep thinking about these jobs that I want to be able to start my family off with. Okay? There we go. I love you, baby.